My name is Feoder Voronov, and I'm predominantly a painter, mixed media, acrylic, whatever makes a mark. There's obviously different formalistic situations going on here, and it's a derivative of the work that I was doing in the past, and it's stepping out and pushing, further. And a lot of the formal aspects, just quickly, superficially, I would say it's a lot further developed and it's deeper, denser. There's a lot more complexity. The earlier work, there was a certain short-termness about, and these they had much more longevity as far as the making process goes. The source has changed and the approach, I think, has been deepened and modified. What became formulaic, my method of work, where I was using a vocabulary list of just single words, and this body of work I wanted to make it a little bit more personable, and I wanted just to kind of get away from the formulaic aspect of just simply picking a word and developing that into a composition. So I started using short phrases or sometimes single words that come basically from my own personal studio diary. I like words, I like combinations of words, and this is kind of just my homage to just words and expressions that I'm fond of. They come from basic paragraphs that I write, but they're not necessarily laden with any kind of meaning. They don't really come from stories, but they sometimes work together, sometimes they don't. The inference of how language operates and stuff like that, I think it's a little bit outside of me as a painter. I think it's not a direction I'd be fully interested in pursuing or trying to control, because to me that would just enter the realm of where I'm dealing with semantics and meaning of the word, and then it's basically falling into the realm of illustration, and I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in mostly is the formal aspects that, I do have an affinity for the words, and they do have a certain obvious relationship and meaning to me, just like they would to anyone else, because we're all familiar with the words we use every day, and they're signifiers of many personal things to every single person, and I can't control that. So what I'm mainly after is just the formal dilemmas that can be posed by their basic shape and the drawings and the skeletal kind of compositional structures I can derive out of that, and how I can solve the composition using them. There's a natural figure ground formation, happening in the work. My tendency to work on raw canvas and letting a lot of the ground to be and leaving it alone to show through. But the density, I think, and just the overall complexity of the paintings, it would be the main contributor to the objectness that you're describing. This particular show, the major challenge was I forced myself to make some larger work. Not that I'm uncomfortable with scale, but due to the nature of my work, scale becomes a factor as far as labor is concerned. And I can't shoot myself in the foot and undertake gigantic paintings, because they would just take a really long time to make, and physically they can become painful. In that sense, were challenging, especially this one that I'm sitting next to, just because it is the largest piece I've done in a while. And there's a lot of surface area to work on and consider and activate. And it was the last painting in this body of work. So at that point, a lot of sort of compositional and formal ideas have been explored and kind of logged in my head. So it's a balancing act of controlling that and not make a painting that just screams at you with every single new idea and trick that you've kind of uncovered in the studio. So to make that balanced, but then also to activate this large space, you have to be cognizant of the fact that even though it's larger, that doesn't mean you have to get obsessed with that idea and just cover the whole thing up and just overdo it, So it's still knowing how to kind of stand back and give it space and give it balance. But also I think some of the earlier pieces, the first two pieces, I guess, on that wall over there when you enter, were pretty important as well because they're the first in the bunch and they kind of opened up the proverbial can of worms that led to some of the ideas that I chose to explore in this body of work. So.